Good evening, folks. Alrighty. So, welcome to the stream. My name is Zach. This is the Arclight Miniatures Happy Little Painting Session, Raiders of the Lost Art, Part 3. We are going to crush through the rest of the Raider and call it a day on that one. Time should allow, because I don't foresee this taking more than maybe 2 hours. I'm going to move on to doing some work on the trains that I have. That would be some train cars from Brigade Models. It's for their monorail set. Really enjoy that kit. I've had these for quite a while. Had them painted, but am repainting them. Got inspired by Pourable Games on Instagram. I believe the guy's name's Ben. Could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that. But very talented painter. And he's painted up one of those sets, and it really inspired me to repaint them. So I do have a very upset baby in the background. She's just waiting to get fed. Bottle's getting warmed up. I'm going to go ahead and transfer over to the painting desk. Bear with me, folks. I'm going to change over the sound, and we will get started. Strip club, DJ voice, disengage. All right. Sound should be good. Do let me know in the chat if the sound sounds weird. All right. Losing my voice here for some reason. Have a sip of a beverage. Alrighty. I'm gonna go ahead and wet my number 2 brush. That's what I like using for most of my detail work. So, we got the Raider. Go ahead and zoom in on this. Worked on this last time. We are going to work on the canopy. Got to finish that off, and then we are also going to finish off the little glow effect on this. I got to dark. I've been thinking about this. I need to darken this significantly, so I'm going to do that, and apply just a very modest amount of OSL, just kind of on the chassis of the autocannon around the base of the barrel there, where the chamber is, and then we're calling that good. I'm actually probably going to start with this just because this is more fun. Let's go ahead and get going. I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out. I do have my palette positioned in a manner that is actually a little bit easier for folks to see. Let's see how this goes. So right here, this is fluorescent ink, and this is just a transparent red flame red ink, rather. Whoops. I'm going to go ahead and start with the fluorescent. Just going to wipe off a little bit of excess. And let's zoom this in. pretty much going to cover all this yellow with the fluorescent red. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to darken this significantly. The fluorescent red over top of the yellow is still going to maintain a pretty punchy color value. It's going to be very bright, but it will darken it. And then that's kind of going to be my primary highlight color, I think. I might have a little bit of the yellow just kind of showing through on like the weaker glazes, and I might go back in just with a little bit of white and glaze in the recesses if I need to. Well, that's the beauty of this, is knocking it down. It's easy to not get too carried away. Let's get this back over here. Just went to Gen Con last weekend. That was very fun. Got to meet a lot of people, especially all of my CSO buddies, which I'd only known on the internet up until then. That was really cool. Got to stay with Raymond White and his family. Saved me a whole lot of cash when it came to lodging, because holy crap, hotels are expensive down there at that time of year. So many thanks to him and his family. Oh, what's going on, Kevin? Thanks for the follow. It was definitely a good time being down there, getting to connect with lots of people. I don't get to that often, living in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I have a lot of friends out here that I work with, but you know, they're all work friends, so it is nice to get out and about once in a while. Just gonna slop it up here with all of this fluorescent red. Once I go through all of this with the fluorescent red, I'm going to grab some of that flame red ink and knock this back even further. And once I knock that back even more, I'm going to probably go in with a little bit of like a crimson red, very thin, and on all of the areas that I want to be kind of the coldest, I'm going to kind of glaze some of that on. And then I'm going to go back in with some of the gray and the black and the metallics, just to kind of reinforce the areas that are supposed to look like they've cooled off. Bring this back to the middle here. Gotta get some more in the recesses over here, especially up top. Oops. I'm just trying to avoid any, like, I don't know, coffee staining or like weird, highly concentrated spots that have lots of pigment on them. I did unfortunately get a little bit on the blue, but that's okay. We just flood it with a little bit of water and wipe it off. It's starting to look better now that I've knocked this back quite a bit with the fluorescent red, but I still do need to knock this back even further, so I'm going to go in with a little bit of the flame red. I'm just adding a tiny little bit of, I'll show you folks what I'm doing. Oops, zoom this out. So just to show you exactly what I'm doing, so I always have this towel just for, you know, if I have lots of moisture on my brush. This takes all the rest. I like to just touch my brush to my wet palette sponge sometimes, just to soak up a tiny little bit of water, and then I just kind of swirl that in like this, and I just draw out some of the pigments, This is thinned down slightly, and then I just go ahead and remove a little bit of the excess off the brush, just like so. Go ahead and zoom back in here. Go all the way in, and just a little bit back out here. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna focus more so on the ends and the top, like the outer sections of the barrel first. I don't want to go too heavy-handed with this red right off the hop. I think this will really start to bring up the contrast. That's really the issue here, is I need a little bit more contrast between the lights and the darks. So I just want to kind of pump that up just a little bit. Just gonna go ahead and do that same, repeat that same process, getting a little bit of the red ink on with a bit of water, taking off the excess, and then coming back to the miniature. I'm gonna leave just a little bit of excess in my my brush for this area, and these ones. Let's bring this back just a little bit towards the middle. I'm gonna do a couple of brush strokes, move on to the next one, and then I'm gonna kind of go around the world a couple times because I want to do a couple layers per barrel section, essentially. But I do need that glaze of ink to dry before I go through again, or else I can end up with like coffee staining and reactivating the layer below. There's just a few things that can go wrong that I don't want to have go wrong, so I make sure I take my time and let that layer dry before I go back to it again. I'm going to come back up to the front as well here, these little tips. Alright, that's looking a little bit better. Go ahead and load just a little bit of moisture and some more ink. Take off some of the excess, and I'm going to come back to this area here. And I'm just going to kind of stroke and stipple kind of all over here. Just trying to pull, oops, trying to pull that, I'm going to actually just load a bit of water here and try to soften that out, that little area that I got a little bit of red on in that recess. I didn't really want that. What I was going to say is I'm just trying to gently stroke up with that pure red towards that dark edge, that hard edge, wick away some of that excess. Oops, just did it again. Whoops, I did it again. Slipping up a little bit here. Go ahead and try to brush that away. That's a little bit better. Okay. I'm liking this a lot more now that you can kind of see a lot of the colder edges are darker, and that's really kind of punching up the contrast a lot on this. This looks a lot closer to what I was hoping it would. So I'm gonna go ahead and start working kind of on the back end here. I think I'm gonna start with the crimson. Yeah, we're going to start just with a little bit of crimson, heavily thinned. I'm going to layer up just a little bit, and so I got to be very careful. I don't want to touch this to any of my light source. I'm just trying to paint this into the recesses and a little bit onto the edges here. I'm not worried about bright color value at this moment, because what I'm going to do after I kind of add on this quasi glaze that I'm putting on is I'm going to get a bit of white ink, do some kind of minor edge highlights on the edges closest to and adjacent to the autocannon barrels, and then I'm going to go back over top of that white ink with some of the fluorescent red and the flame red ink, and that is going to punch up those glow reflections. But I do need to kind of create that dark red color value for the areas not super awash in this light. Pardon me. Just had a little bit of a burp. I really want to make sure I'm not going on like the back side of this, the rear. I'm trying to keep it on these forward facing edges, because those are the edges that are actually, perpendicular to this light source and directly near it, whereas the other areas kind of beyond this hard edge corner that kind of runs around, everything beyond it is just not going to be in the light cast by this. Just trying to maintain some small semblance of realism there. This is not the most realistic light source depiction, but it, trying to keep a little bit of continuity with reality wherever possible is always a plus. Oftentimes I focus on interesting with a basis in realism, or a base in realism rather. I try to keep things as realistic as possible where I can, but then also have some stylized aspects about whatever I'm painting. And I think that's the fun part about it. If you're just focused on, realism as a whole, you're not adding any personal flair to, this thing you're trying to create. I think you're always better suited to leaning into style. You can have substance and style all in the same package. And I think a lot of people forget that. So I've just got kind of that thin crimson that I kind of put around all these edges. It's very dark, especially on the camera, in contrast to the bright stuff right beside it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to grab just a little bit of Evil Sun's Scarlet. I'll just kind of show where that is on my palette here. So again, just loading a little bit of moisture on my brush with the wet palette sponge. That's why this palette sponge is so filthy, if you can kind of see that. If you saw this at a glance, you'd be like, wow, dude, you got some serious mold going on in there, but that's just me doing this frequently. So, anyways, back to what I was doing. I'm gonna go ahead and load my brush with just a bit of moisture. I'm gonna hit the Evil Sun Scarlet that's sitting right there. I'm just gonna kind of draw a little bit of that out. There's a little water droplet right there that I'm actually trying to avoid. Pull some of the moisture off this, just a little bit too much moisture. Grab some of that back with that drop and add some paint to it. So, as you can see, this is like a fairly wet brush. and that's what you want. But I'm still producing like a nice thin line. Whoops, lost my bracing there on my finger. Producing nice thin lines if I need to. And it's a very thin paint, but this is going to brighten up those edges. And then after we do this color, as you can see, it's, you know, a little bit brighter there. After we do this color, I'm going to add the white ink, and then I'll go back in with the fluorescent red and the flame red. But this will just help to build that base deep lighting tone. Sometimes these, you know, small extra steps just really go a long way. So I'm going to try to get a little bit of this Evil Sun Scarlet kind of in the recess down here. Do the same on the other side here. I'm going to use my thumb as a brace. I'm just trying to be mindful of not flooding this too much to where I'm going to get a bunch of the Evil Sun Scarlet on the base of the autocannon barrels. Just trying to kind of fill this recess. I'll probably add a little bit of white ink into that recess as well, just to add a little bit of brightness, punch it up. Just reinforcing some of these areas with a little bit more of this Evil Sun Scarlet, because it is the first layer that I went on with was pretty thin. Just want to reinforce that a little bit. That's probably good. Okay. Go ahead and zoom that back out. So I got my white ink. I really like white ink because it is highly pigmented and it is very thin. I think a lot of folks can attest that there's a lot of white paints out there that are pretty chalky. So having something that's not is good. I'm just gonna zoom. Let's go all the way in there. Sounds like a couple of my cats are going at it right now. Trying to keep this very thin, make this a little edge highlight like that. And when I go back in there with the, I have to be careful down here. That's probably good. Luckily I don't have my fan pointing at me today because it's not very hot. Sure, that's probably enjoyable for you folks listening. Howdy, Folk Firebrand. Sorry, I've been very focused. I don't know how long ago you posted that, but I've been very focused on this edge highlight. I'm gonna go ahead and keep going, circumnavigating this chassis. Oops, let's get this back in frame. Try and get the top of this as well. Just really trying not to get any on that thing. Get a little down there. Kind of do the same on the other side here. See if I can just kind of poke into the recess a little bit of white. Yeah, we can. Just gonna go ahead and do the same on this side. And again, I'm just kind of poking this in there. I'm not actually doing brush strokes. I'm just kind of poking the tip in and out. There's a joke there somewhere. I'm not willing to say it right now, but if you are, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and go back to this fluorescent red ink. Again, I'm doing the same kind of load from my wet brush palette, a little bit of water, go to the fluorescent red ink, and then I'm just offloading now a little bit onto my paper towel. I'm going to start first with the edges. Just kind of roll over them. It's going to be a very mild tinting that it gives them, which is kind of what I want. I don't want it to tint it like crazy right off the hop. Just gonna go around. Probably have to do a few passes like this going around, and now I'm gonna kind of dump a little bit of that into the recess. Just kind of blowing on this gently. I kind of want some of that to dry. Let's see if we can get that back in focus. I need to knock that down. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of this flame red. I think I'm just gonna go straight to that. Actually, I'm gonna add a little bit of the fluorescent red in. I'm gonna go straight to that and add that into the recess. Because this doesn't need to be super bright, but I do want a little bit of brightness, but it needs to be very red, because this stuff isn't supposed to be nearly as hot, and it's also not supposed to be bare metal, so it just simply wouldn't be showing as much heat if it had, you know, paint and all that other jazz on there. In my head canon, anyways. How have things been there, Folk Firebrand? What have you been working on lately? Okay, just going around. Hitting all this with the red. And the nice thing is I can just come back in if I need to with a little bit of white afterwards and reinforce a few areas, which I might do. And then probably add just a bit of fluorescent red. It's looking pretty decent. There's a little bit of fluorescent. Add a little bit of that in. Oh yeah, that fluorescent really punched things up there. I absolutely love fluorescent inks for that. They're just so vibrant. going to go ahead with a little bit of this white ink again. Probably not actually. You know what? I'm going to go and grab, I think I know what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of darkness to some of these edges on that front of the chassis there. Really digging how this looks now. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of this black gray from Vallejo. Shake, 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 shake it up. And drop a little bit of that on the old palette. Just push this out of the way. Same thing, just loading a little bit of moisture onto my brush using that wet palette sponge because it is right there. Just a little bit more because that is a bit of a thicker paint straight out of the bottle. Black gray from Vallejo Model Color, or Vallejo, as my Spanish friends would say. Augustin, I'm looking at you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to kind of tap a little bit around and edge highlight almost with the dark stuff. And that's going to kind of give the same effect that I've already got going on the machine gun barrel, or the autocannon barrel rather. Just kind of stippling, doesn't need to be perfect, but this is really just going to kind of help further sell that effect. Stipple this a little bit more. Just that bottom line that I did there on the bottom of the chassis was a little bit clean. Okay, this might have just been the magic touch that I needed on that. I think that's about good. I don't really think we need to mess with that any further. Zoom this back out just slightly because my autofocus is bugging out a little bit there. Definitely digging this. Alrighty. Happy we can call that complete. Alright, next up, canopy. Everybody's favorite. However, dehydration is a soldier's worst enemy, so hydration check. Go ahead and take a swig. I'm also going to have a swig of my adult beverage. For those curious, I am drinking a Section 6 IPA. Probably only available in Manitoba, so good luck finding it. It's actually pretty good as far as IPAs go. All right. Sorry, I'm just looking at my canopy here. I have a little bit of, I was a little bit messy blocking in my black, but that's okay. I'm gonna come in here quickly with a little bit of the skeleton bone that I put on my palette, and I'm gonna tidy that up. I was just kind of eyeballing where I actually need to clean up. It just seems like it's a couple panels. It's not all of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom this in. Again, loading the brush on the wet palette sponge a little bit, getting some of that skeleton bone. I don't need to thin this down a lot. This is kind of this main front viewing panel that I bungled a little bit. I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of side on stroke this brush. And you know what, just because we're already here, I'm just gonna go ahead and add an edge highlight to that because, and this, so those seem like they should have some. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same on the other side here. All of a sudden I'm edge highlighting. I'm just gonna quickly throw one right there and then call it quits with the edge highlighting over that area. Get carried away. Not worried about tons of edge highlights on this one in particular. I just wanted to hit some of the edges with the dry brushing, call it good, essentially. And just kind of angle up a little bit here. Yeah, just get along that back edge of the side panel. There is that tiny little triangle panel on the top. I'm gonna see if I can edge highlight the edge of the frame there. I should say see if I can. I will. Boom. I'm going to go ahead and do it on the other side because I skipped it on the other side. And just like that, it is complete. I'm going to go ahead and be all fancy pants and see if I can get that back edge. There we go, we do. Or I do. I guess I can say we do. Sorry, stepped away to feed the dogs, finishing my last lance for my Merc company. Daishi, Mad Cat, Axeman, Hunchback, 2C. Excuse me, sir, that is a direwolf and a timberwolf. You Surratt. Uncultured Surratt. That's a pretty spicy lance, though. Not gonna lie. Hunchback 2C gets slept on. Definitely. Mad Cat, you know, who doesn't like Timberwolves? I love them. Probably my favorite, you know, that and the Mad Cat Mark II are probably my favorite chassis in universe. And direwolves, you know, well, they're direwolves. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I don't really need to tidy this up anymore, I don't think. Maybe, as I say that, I'm looking at a part of a panel here that I do kind of want to tidy up a little bit. Just part of the frame there, I guess. Just want to reinforce that, but okay. First things first, I'm going to lay a crimson in all these panels, and once I do that, I'll start working backwards, or I guess upward in brightness value. So I'm going to be kind of going from left to right, and then down. Oop, I just touched my brush in there. This is a very bizarre layout I know. I'm tired and I placed this in a weird spot, so I had to come down. Anyways, a little bit of OCD, neurodivergence there for you. Yeah, Intersphere Merc Company, they can call it a Mad Cat, I guess. There we go. Just getting some of that crimson on my brush, and my kind of reflection dot point is going to be in the top right corner of these panels, so I'm going to fill everything in the panel minus that top right corner with the crimson, and that bottom left corner is going to become the highlight corner for the color in the canopy. So I'm doing brush strokes as well as some gentle stipples just to kind of fill out the areas that I want. Just going to go ahead and rinse my brush briefly. Add a little bit of water, get some more crimson on my brush. I rinse very frequently because I don't want paint drying in my brush, and I never really load my brush with too much paint. Unless I'm blocking details in with black, then I tend to overload. And honestly, black is probably what does in a lot of my brushes. I just get black ink or paint drying up in my ferrule, and that, you know, from me blocking in details or base coating something. It's a curse. Had a little fluff or something going on in that brush. I think I picked it up on the actual panel there that I was painting. Same thing, just kind of the top right is going to be the reflection dot, and then the bottom left will be the highlight colors. Just kind of pulling all my red down there. I'm going to have to come back in and clean up with a little bit of the black around the edges, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Here, gonna kind of put the top as the reflection, so I'm gonna have all the highlight color down towards the bottom. Try to bring this a little bit more in frame while still being able to see what I'm doing. Thus is always the challenge when painting on stream, trying to make sure you folks can see what I actually see, but also trying to make sure I can see well enough that I don't just ruin all my hard work by making unnecessary missteps. I digress. Okay. Just gonna kind of stipple, fill the rest of the spot there, especially down at the bottom here. Doing a natural brush stroke in that area is just a little bit tight, so stippling is just perfectly good, especially if you have a very fine brush tip. I'm just using my Ammo by MIG number 2 Marta Kolinsky. I do have my number 1 out here, but I don't ever really use it for much, if I'm being perfectly honest, unless it's a very kind of narrow space, because it's a pretty skinny brush head in comparison to the fatter belly of this number 2. But other than that, my number 2 gets the job done for pretty much all my detail work. Just comes down to paint consistency and brush control. Anyways, I'm going to go to the next red up, which I believe is Dragon Red. Yes, it is Dragon Red. I just looked over at the bottle on my shelf. This one I'm not really adding moisture into, pardon me, my brush, and that is just because this paint out of the bottle, this is a very old bottle, by the way, of Army Painter Dragon Red, but it is very thin in the bottle for some reason. Much more so than compared to most Army Painter paints. They're actually kind of known for being very thick out of the bottle, thick with 3 C's. But this one is not. This one is very thin, and I actually really like it for layering up, because you can just thin it very, very little and you basically have a glaze. So when you're layering up these areas, you're honestly, especially because this is, you know, one of the dark tones in the gradient, you can kind of just layer it up from out of the bottle. That's pretty much just out of the bottle, and it blends just well enough. Just well enough. That's what I meant to say. Go ahead and kind of fill this area, and I'm just kind of stippling it in there. Kind of getting it onto that inside edge. Again, I'm gonna have to come in here and kind of clean up a little bit of this edge and that edge on this top panel with a bit of black, but not a big deal. I'm gonna go ahead and grab just a little bit more of that dragon red. I gotta do, just gonna kind of maneuver this a little bit. And I'm gonna use the brace right here just to poke. Doing some kind of stipples slash downward strokes. I'm just trying to pull a little bit more of this bright pigment into that bottom corner, but I think my brush dried out a little bit. I'm just gonna wet it on that wet palette sponge and grab a little bit more of the paint. Offload some of that, just a touch, and I'll come back in here. It's almost too much, but that's actually, nope, that'll be just fine. Good to go. Okay. Go ahead and grab just a little bit more of that red, and I'm gonna apply it to the front two panels. I'll do the bottom one first. Go ahead and re-up a little bit more of the paint, and I'm going to go to this front panel. There we go. Timberwolf came out not long after I started playing, so that's always had a special spot in my heart. Yeah, pretty much for me too. Like it was both a blessing and a curse. My dad was a gamer, like the whole time, pretty much from the time I was born in 1992. I always had a PC in my house. My dad was one of the few people on our street that had one, and we had the internet. So, my parents didn't have a lot of money, but my dad had his priorities straight, so he had a PC. But one of the games that he had that I used to play a lot of, other than Quake and Doom, was MechWarrior 2 and all of its expansions. And then eventually MechWarrior 3, which I dabbled in a little bit, but then MechWarrior 4 is where I really dove into it. So I always had tons of exposure to the Timberwolf, especially the iconic artwork from the game cover. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of this is a pure red from the Army Painter, also very thin out of the bottle, and again, this is an older bottle. I've had this for a number of years. What number, you ask? I have no idea. I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'm going to go ahead and kind of fill this bottom edge and stipple a little bit, especially along that edge. I'm going to kind of do the same down here. I'm going to stroke a little bit though. Go back, grab just a little bit more. I'm not thinning this at all, this color. This is pretty thin right on the palette, just from the little bit of moisture that it's drawn from the wet palette itself through the parchment. No need to thin this. Again, if you're getting like a newer bottle, that might be a different case, but I really enjoy this color right out of the bottle. I'm going to be very upset when I finally run out of these two colors, because for layering up red and orange, they are fantastic. Just kind of stippling in the bottom corner there. That's good enough. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to wet my brush just a little bit. Grab some of that paint. Oops, wrong paint. There we go. Get my head out of the frame there. Good enough for now. I'm just going to go ahead and change the playlist briefly. 1 second. All right. This is some of Harris Heller's stream beats. Some of his lo-fi mix. Definitely a fan. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of this Evil Sun Scarlet. Oop, there's a bit of a drop of water on my palette. That escaped me. I'll go ahead and get that off. This Evil Sun Scarlet, I'm just adding the tiniest little bit of water to my brush and then getting the paint on my brush. Let's see if we can get this more in focus. This Evil Sun Scarlet's nice and bright, so this is kind of the start of our highlight lines. Go ahead and wet the brush and get just a little bit more of the paint. I'm going to do this bottom pane, and I'm just not quite going to fill the same amount of area. I'm going to start pushing my color value, correction my brightness value more towards the right side of the mech. Just on that pane. I'm going to go ahead and again grab some of this. Oops. Some little sneaky drops of water that are on the palette that I keep picking up by accident. Go ahead and see if I can draw a neat little edge. That seems neat enough. Methinks. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on top, and then I'll go back to the that last side. I'm going to go ahead and wet this brush, clean it quickly. I'm just going to go back to that Evil Sun Scarlet. I want to get a not thinned down version for this area, I think. There we go. There we go. I go ahead and grab just a little bit more and do this last side. Right over here. Again, trying to do like a nice clean edge to the bottom section of this canopy pane. Like how that one turned out. I'm going to go ahead and grab just a little bit of the red from before. I'm just going to go in just kind of clean up. I'm gonna push it kind of towards the edge here, but leave that Evil Sun Scarlet around the edge showing through. It's barely noticeable, but for me I noticed it, and I wasn't digging how that looked. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the next color, which is, what color is this? Is it Mythic Orange or something like that? Let me double check that. No, Orange Red. I was completely wrong. Mythical Orange. That's the other color I have. But we're gonna use Orange Red. That's what we're using from VMC. This is a thicker paint coming out of the bottle. I'm gonna go ahead and thin this considerably. I actually did something I generally don't do a lot of, which I added a considerable amount of water to this whole drop just because it was so thick. Just kind of teasing this out a little bit, making sure the consistency is relatively even. Go ahead and come back in. White Fox SG, heyo, what's going on, buddy? Just doing this nice hard line with the orange. Trying to keep that line as fine as you can. I'm gonna go, after I do this, I'm gonna be putting a little bit of yellow, like 2 different kinds of yellow in there. So this one can be a little bit thicker, but I still want it relatively thin. I'm gonna go ahead and scribble in on this area. Do the top as well. Let's go ahead and grab just a little bit more paint. Awkward brush hold. Good enough. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and do these side panels, side panes, side panels, whatever. I'm gonna offload just a little bit of water from that. I might need a little bit more paint. We'll see. Seems like it's a little bit thin on the brush. Yeah, I think I'll need to add just a little bit more paint to my brush. Maybe not. No, we'll reinforce this with a second pass. There we go. If you can hear a lovely baby cooing and making noise in the background, that is my daughter Kamina. She's a happy baby most of the time, but you know, sometimes she's hungry, and other times she's just pissed because she's a baby. Love seeing so many more Mac painting streams, getting my space set up for it, though I am much less skilled. LOL. Bro, it looks great. What kind of hobby handle is that? I'm in the market. All I have is a Citadel one. So this one is from Thunderhead Studio. So this is the bottom of the painting handle. It's got the label in it. Thunderhead Studio, and then this sticks to it. It's all magnetic. I have magnetic base bottoms on my Litco hex bases. These are 40 mil Litco hex bases, but you can get them in the standard 30 mil size. I just prefer 40 because I like scenic bases, as you can see. But yeah, it's very, very strong. Pretty heavy. There are times where I do use the whole handle, but oftentimes when I'm doing detail work, I just do it like this. If I'm doing anything with an airbrush though, I oftentimes will have the, let's zoom this back out, I will use the whole handle. Yeah. Boom. Pretty good to go. I still do also have a Citadel handle that comes in handy for certain things. And then I have also a ton of just like corks, like foam bits. I often will stick washers on the bottom of them just to help keep them upright. Especially like these wide ones if I've got metal miniatures or pewter pieces, like sub-assemblies or anything like that, just to help keep them upright, keep them from falling. But yeah, tons of different things, but definitely enjoy this one. The magnet definitely, if I'm doing batch painting, makes it really easy to quickly swap between miniatures without having everything on a million painting handles like I used to. Jungle plague, aw shucks, baby cooing, yeah. Sometimes those babies get some big feelings. Oh, but definitely. She gets some big old pouty lips on her too, it's very cute. Yeah, the one that Kevin recommended last night is also very good. I got this one for free, technically, kind of. I printed it a couple of years ago, but I got the file for free from Chris at Thunderhead when he was kind of beta testing them. This is the updated version, and I believe it is free on his website, so you can download the file for free and go ahead and print yourself the handle. And it has instruction file and a text file that basically tells you the size of magnets you should get, how many of them, size of washers, how many of them, because there's washers in the bottom of this to help keep it upright. But yeah, very cool stuff. There's also another big arch that you can use with this, but I found I didn't really use it on the prototype version, the older version that I had, so I just used this one, and it does the trick. Yeah, he's always been a big proponent of using washers in his bases, just for, you know, his painting handle. If you have a steel washer, it just glues this thing right to it. Like, you really got to reef it off to take it off. And not only that, it helps to kind of keep your, give your miniature some weight, especially if you got a resin miniature. They're easy to knock over, things like that. So it's just, handy having a little bit of a weight, a nice wide weight in the bottom of your base. Okay, I'm going to go to the yellow. This is Uriel Yellow from Citadel. This is I gotta be very careful with this because this is a punchy color, but because it is yellow, it also does come off a little bit thin sometimes. It's a hard one to thin down, so I'm gonna try to be very careful. I'm just gonna do a very small line highlight. I'm going to have to clean a couple of these areas up with black, so that being a bit thicker than I want isn't the end of the world, but I'm going to go ahead and grab, there's these little ghost droplets of water on my wet palette that I keep running into by accident, and I will unload the moisture from my brush, go in to grab some paint, and then I end up accidentally reloading moisture onto my brush. Very frustrating. Being very gentle with this brush stroke. That's probably good. I'm gonna go ahead and hit this. Oh, that was very sloppy. I slipped. My little grip slipped. I'm gonna see if I can flood this with a little bit of water, and yeah, I might be able to tease all that off. Look at that. It's like it never happened. I'm gonna go ahead and just add very careful this time. Okay, I'm going to do the top. See if I can get that to focus a little bit better. I like my hands being closer to the camera are causing my autofocus to focus a little bit more on my knuckles. Oh, and my baby is crying. She's been a little bit of a fussy girl the last couple nights. She's definitely been going through a bit of a sleep regression, I think. It's funny how that happens, like every 5 weeks or something like that, while they're newborns and young infants. Kids are cool, but man, they love throwing curveballs at you. And mine's just a baby. I'm very, very nervous for when she gets older. I have to be on my toes. I think I've got a little bit of paint dried on the tip of my brush. I do. Just had a tiny little piece stuck on the end there that was causing me a bit of grief with this yellow. Again, awkward, bit of an awkward position, but that's okay, because I'm an awkward guy, pretty good in awkward positions. Being awkward can help you in moments like this, big awkward ones. Oh. Paint drying on the end again. It's one thing I don't like about this Uriel yellow is its pigments are big and the paint itself seems to dry really quickly. I probably should just use like a paint retarder. Just the most gentle little edge highlight in here. Really focusing on this bottom corner there. All I have is a resin printer, so printing the handle is out for me unless I found someone to print one. But the hex spaces with the washer slot I could do. I mean, you might be able to print the painting handle with resin because it's hollow. I mean, like most of the entire inner thing is hollow. If you use like a good flexible or ABS-like resin, it would actually probably work just fine. Although this arch you would probably want to have as FDM, just for the rigidity, the flexibility, and the durability. Who knows? Maybe you can message Chris and get one printed. Or, actually, one of my sponsors, Aries Games and Minis, does printing by the hour. So they do printing commission services. So if you get the file from Thunderhead and email Aries Games and Minis, I'm sure Derek can get you the handle printed. Tell him Arclight sent you. Derek and I are good internet buddies. We talk occasionally. He's a bit of a channel sponsor. Alrighty, I'm gonna go in with my final yellow here on the canopy, and it's a Dorn yellow. So this is a very pale yellow. Got a lot of white in it. I'm gonna go ahead and pull a lot of the moisture off of my brush. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to the paint. This and the Uriel yellow I have thinned quite a bit in the bottles because I pulled them out of their Citadel bottles and put them in dropper bottles. But is very, very finicky as well. Really gonna mainly focus in that corner and just a little bit extending up and to the side from it. Honestly, I'm just gonna leave that as is. Just that little guy. Get a little bit more on my brush here. Mix this up. I have had this paint sitting on my wet palette for a little bit now, so I've actually got a little bit of separation happening in some of the paints. So I'm going to go ahead and get this bottom one. Just that dot. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing up in the top. I'm going to get some of the excess off. Doesn't need to be a big one to get the job done. That's what she said. I'm going to go ahead and hit the bottom corner here. My paint has dried. I'm going to go ahead and wet my whistle, so to speak. Some of that paint back on my brush, and I'm just trying to touch a dot right in the corner. Bit of an oddly shaped dot, but that's okay. We'll clean that up after. I'm going to go back to the other panels. I'm going to kind of do the same down here. That's kind of dried a little bit again. This paint is very bizarre. It'll be very runny, and then all of a sudden it is completely dry. Okay. Out that corner just a little bit. That's I'm going to go back in with just a little bit of the Urio yellow, the much more saturated yellow. I'm just going to kind of tidy this one up a little bit. Just going to pull some of the excess off of my thumb. Pardon the awkward angle. There we go. I think that's about good. Nice. I'm gonna go ahead and reinforce this one. Back to the orange. Just kind of taper off with a little bit of that towards the end. Boom. Alrighty. So now I'm just, as you can see, I'm just kind of fussing back and forth a little bit, just kind of looking at some areas and figuring out what I want to kind of fix and tidy up. This music guest starring my daughter. A little bit with the red. There's a lot of excess on my brush. Just want to tidy this up just a wee bit. going to go ahead and grab some of the black. I'm going to try to tidy up a little bit. Warwolf 22, it's going good. How about yourself, man? Just kind of going along that edge with the black. Whoops, and I kind of made a bit of an error there, but that's okay. Go ahead and grab a little bit of this khaki. Just kind of reinforce the front of that. Go ahead and wet that, and I'm going to grab the black again. Tidying up the bottom, top of that, and let's go into this awkward top panel that I gotta tidy up here. See if I can do it like this. Try to keep my head out of the way. I believe I got that side good. Try to come in at this angle here. My wife and I have been joking, because this seems to happen every stream, that my daughter will just get very, very, very upset for a couple hours. I would like to think it's because she's a daddy's girl and she misses daddy, but who knows? I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit more yellow into the corner on this side panel. Just mixing this yellow up a little bit on the palette because it keeps separating a little bit into its constituent products. Okay. Just want to reinforce a little bit on that bottom edge, because it's just very orange right now. This one too. Let's go back in with the black and tidy that up. Just a wee bit of back and forth, nothing wrong with that. And then I'm going to go back in with what is it? The Dorn Yellow. And it dried. Relatively quickly. That's okay. Let's go black. Just gonna pull this into a position where you're not really gonna be able to see it. So I'm just trying to be as neat as possible. Alrighty. I think we're pretty much good on the canopy. I don't think we need to fuss too much with this. I just want a piece of the framing that I have a little bit of red on, and black. Oh no. That's weird. Sorry folks, I'm just flooding this area with water to prevent it from staining with a khaki. It's just those annoying little water drops that pop in every once in a while. I'm gonna go ahead and redo this. So what I was trying to do is just tidy up the edge right there and right there. And that's about good. That's pretty good for the canopy. The only other things left to do here are the little white reflection dots, which we will do thusly. I'm going to use my white ink for that. I'm not thinning this whatsoever. I'm making sure I have a relatively dry brush. So I wick all that moisture off the brush using the paper towel, and then I go in and get my little bit of white ink. I'm just going to touch a tiny little dot. Shitty one, I'm going to redo that one. The beauty of doing these dots kind of in that black area, so if you ever need to like redo the dot like I do on that other one, you can just go in with a dot of black and cover up the white. Dried on my brush, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse that off, make sure I don't have any little nubs of paint. And again, this is a very dry brush. I've wicked all the moisture off of it. Okay, getting a nice little release of paint. I'm going to go back to this other panel that I flubbed. I'm just going to cover that up with a little bit of black. Kind of want to redo this this front one here. Just going to go ahead and get the moisture off my brush after I cleaned it. Grab a little bit of that white. This is just a pure white artist ink. Okay. So my thumb is a little brace here, and just gonna touch it. Tidy that one up. I'm going to tidy this one up too with just a little bit of black. Sometimes when you're dealing with a bit of dry tip, it's a matter of trying to get the right amount of paint to come off the brush. Touch up the bottom little edge of this, because this little dot, when I look at it close, kind of looks like a triangle. Oh, and I covered the whole thing. That's okay. You're seeing it real time, folks. I make mistakes frequently that I have to fix. It's just part of the game. It's kind of why I like this whole streaming thing. Kind of reduces a little bit of the mystique. People don't have to wonder too much. Just a bit of black, because like. Okay. I think we're about good with this. Canopy's looking pretty nice. Simple, nothing fancy, just a red to orange to yellow gradient. Essentially no blending involved. It is just thin paints applied in 1 to 2 layers and done in successively smaller and smaller areas, and they are nice and clean. Another little show of the other side here. Nice. Alrighty, so I just want to see. I have this kind of glued a little bit in place here on the magnet. Actually, I just noticed an area that I'm going to fix right now. Just right there. I just noticed a little bit of yellow in a spot that it really shouldn't be. It just needs to get toned down slightly. I think that's about good. Let's go ahead and kind of pop that off. I do need to touch up a small area in here. Going to go ahead and grab my craft knife just to scrape off this tiny little bit of super glue and paint that is on the magnet. And before I get too carried away here, I do have a small spot on this I do need to fix that I see. I'm just going to go ahead and grab a little bit of my Sotek green. And I know I said Sotek green, but it's Sotek green is actually turquoise. Let's see my my light bouncing in the corner there. I'm going to zoom in slightly so you don't have to see that. Go ahead and drop that right there. I just have a little area that I had scraped before that I totally forgot about, and that's just see if I can get you folks to see that. You can probably see that shiny little piece of silver right on the blue. I'm going to go ahead and fix that. Yeah. Just going to go ahead and brace like that because this thing is not stable on the magnet. I'm going to go ahead and add that right there. And I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of black gray. Going to kind of fill in that recess a little bit right near it, and we're just going to make that look like gentle weathering. Boom, can't even tell. So I just want to see what this, oh, Just noticing a couple areas where I must have dinged in here as well. That's okay. As soon as we varnish this, that's all going to be protected. I'm just going to be very careful with this. Go ahead and pull this off. Alright. Final product. I think pretty much the base rims are already good to go, so I can go ahead and varnish this whenever I'm ready, but I'm very happy with how that glowing autocannon turned out. That is fantastic. Canopy turned out nice, simple. The metallics are nice and dirty, which I really enjoy. So, I'm just going to go ahead and zoom this back out. Slightly wider view, not as compressed. I'm going to go ahead and throw the other arm on here. This one I also had just a tiny dab of glue just to keep it from spinning around when I was doing certain things. Just going to go ahead and pop this on. This is the rocket launcher arm. I love magnets, especially with these Iron Wind Metals kits. Even the plastic miniatures from Catalyst Game Labs are pretty good. They're pretty easy to kind of take apart and magnetize. So if you have literally just arm swaps, it's the easiest thing ever. It's kind of intro level magnetizing is just doing arm swaps. And then, you know, torso as well. But I didn't do the torso on this one. I wanted a fixed torso just because the autocannon arm on this thing is very heavy, and it would have been pretty swingy. I also had to be very creative with how I positioned this, so I had to have this in quite the torso twist towards the left, and the reason why is the right knee actually braces the bottom of the autocannon. So I'll show you what I mean. So otherwise it would just kind of fall. So it just very gently sits against that, and it keeps it from kind of falling too deep. Man, I'm really happy with how this autocannon glow turned out. Don't really need to do anything further. I'm not going to fuss with that. We're only an hour and a half into the stream and we're done this bad boy. Beautiful. Now we can move on to other things. I cannot wait to photograph this thing. I'm going to do some shots with a black background. I'm also going to do some shots on a photo stage, like with terrain and stuff like that. It's going to look really good. Yeah. Yep. Alrighty. Very happy with that. I'm going to set these aside to varnish them at a later time. I'm just going to go ahead and set that on. As you can see, this just kind of flops around on this magnet. But for the purposes of varnishing and all that, this will be good enough. I'm going to go ahead and put these in my little cabinet. I'm also going to take a quick, at least a 10-minute break, maybe 15. I will be back no later than 8:50 Central, so about 15 minutes from now, 14 minutes from now. I will see you folks then. All right. Back a few minutes early. Sorry, I just turned on my noise canceling stuff. I got back here in 11 minutes instead of 14. I'm just seems like my noise levels are a little weird. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna troubleshoot this. Okay. I think that's better. All right. So I'm curious, does anybody have anything in particular that they want to see on these trains in terms of techniques? I want to do some, unless everything sounds okay to me, unless you want the music softer. All right, good to know. Might just be the slider lagging in my little audio mixer here. I'm just happy that it sounds good. Yeah, any particular techniques or things you folks want to see me go over with the trains at some point? I want to do a lot of weathering and things like that. Probably going to add some decals at some point, just for ambiance, because I want to add some warning signs as well as graffiti. My auto mixer's just inside Streamlabs. So when it comes to edge highlighting versus dry brushing, I don't really have a preference, but I definitely I don't know, they both have their application. Like, dry brushing is great for big pieces, terrain, things like that. And honestly, on some miniatures, I dry brush to get all of my initial highlights, and then I'll just kind of go in and refine doing normal edge highlighting. I don't know, it's a good, especially if you're doing it the right way, it's a good way to get cheap, easy edge highlights with very little effort. So you can still get a very, very good quality paint job with dry brushing being involved. So don't shy away from it, just make sure you're doing it the right way. Artist Opus, that channel has a ton of good resources for dry brushing technique. Definitely recommend checking them out. That's pretty much where I got all my stuff. I just use cheap makeup brushes. They use fancy dry brushes. The makeup brushes do me no wrong, and they're cheap, so that's what I go with. But something big, wide, with good coverage, it's kind of what you need. Artist Opus. I'll type it in the chat. Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and swap over to the desktop mic, or the painting desk mic rather, and we will hop into the trains. All right. Pardon me while I eat 2 potato chips. Okay, definitely not going to be needing the number 1. And not going to be needing the number 2 for at least, I don't know, like a little bit. I'm just gonna, there we go. Go ahead and clean this quickly. Just gonna go ahead and leave just a little bit of soap on the brush and then just kind of roll it to a point. I'm being very careful to kind of drag it and kind of pull and turn. That way I'm not like kind of twisting my bristles up like that. I'm just kind of like gently pulling them into a nice straight bundle like that. Anyways, a little small tip. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the protector over the end. Pop that up there. So what we're working with, got a few different car types. So I don't have the like brigade models at the time that I bought this a few years back. They didn't have the freight car for the like the engine car. So, oh, there goes my daughter again, unfortunately. So this is what I have right now for this. I would like to get the freight car eventually because, you know, looks better with the freight cars. Anyways, or the freight engine looks better with the freight cars. I just did a little bit of base coating with like some red on this and this because I wanted to do some heavy rusting and weathering. I'm gonna do like a lot of sponging and things like that to kind of build some color. Going with yellow for this. Also gonna do some heavy weathering, probably with some enamels and a little bit of oils. I'm going to do some weathering on this one, but I'm going to have this be kind of newer and slightly better condition than this one. Definitely going to be adding graffiti to all of them. And then these are just like, I guess, dry goods cars, whatever you want to have them be, just random freight. I'm going to have various levels of weathering and highlighting and all that good stuff. Hydration check. So what kind of cleaner this is? This is Masters Brush Cleaner and Preserver. Definitely recommend this stuff. One of these tins, or it's not really a tin, I guess. It's plastic, but anyways, one of these containers will last you at least a few years. This is my second one that I'm on. I've gone through one so far in the past 4 years, and I'm, you know, about a third the way through this one. So, alrighty. So, I'm probably going to set this one aside for now. I think the first two I'm going to start with are going to be the red boys because I want these to get built up to some browns, and then once I build them up to some browns, I'm going to start stippling other colors over top, and then that's going to kind of give like a chipped paint effect. I'm going to go ahead and crack my other beverage here. Alrighty. I am going to start with a chocolate brown. I'm going to go ahead and grab a dry palette here. I'll grab a brand new one here. I'm just going to do this because my wet palette is pretty crowded and it's kind of unnecessary for me to put this on there. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab this little dry brush. I'm gonna wet it and then I'm gonna rub most of the moisture off onto the towel. That's good. Okay. I'm also going to grab some sponge. So I've got little bits here, little bits here. It's probably good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of twist this up like so. And I'm going to kind of stick the end in this little spare brush protector that I have. And then now this becomes like kind of like a little tool. Look at that. Swifty as hell. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of the chocolate brown. I'm just going to start right over here. And I'm doing this on the white because I really want to see what the pattern starts to look like. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and zoom this in a little bit. You can see where this is starting to get a lot more speckled looking. And that's exactly what I want. I want that heavily speckled look. So now I'm going to go ahead and start just kind of tapping all over. And this isn't going to be noticeable at first because this is over such a dark red. But when I move to the next color, you're going to see how this kind of helps build the base. I'm going to go ahead and pick up a little bit of that. Because it's very uneven and it's so dark, once I start layering on the mid-tones, it'll really start to show through. I'm still going to hit all these undersides even though these are very dark. I'm going to head down here. Zoom this out just slightly. Now, I don't know how well you can tell on the camera, but I know personally I'm starting to be able to see some of this brown speckled all over the red, and that's exactly what I want. And pick up just a little bit more on the brush, or on the well, I guess I could call this a sponge brush at this point. It's got a ferrule and a handle. They are one of the same, but and I have a head. Just gonna go ahead and tap a little bit more heavily on the top areas and just a little bit more on the underwear areas, kind of in the recesses. This is just quick and easy. This is very fun painting to do too because it's very organic and you're just kind of moving all over the whole miniature. I'm gonna go ahead and start doing it on the flatbed car now. Boom. I'm just gonna go ahead and start tapping all over this thing, and in the light you can kind of see all of the speckles. Just want to keep building all this up. Once I add in the mid-tone, that it's like a very ruddy red. The next one's going to be Bloodstone from Formula P3. It's a very, very ruddy red, very rich, like Scrooge McDuck rich in terms of color. So it's a really good one to use for rusty color, or if you want to do anything Martian that, you know, doesn't look like red but it still looks realistic and kind of rusty. So it's a great color to use. So highly recommend Bloodstone from Formula P3. Really, really like their paints. Okay. That's pretty good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of this. Go ahead and give it a shake, shake, shake. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the exact same little pot there. Put this back in its place because I don't like to live in chaos. Just want to show the people that paint went right back to where it was supposed to go. I don't keep clutter on my desk. Go ahead and grab just a little bit of this. And I'm just gonna keep tamping it down all over this because I'm kind of working it into the sponge. And start coming all over to here. This is still a little bit kind of thick and heavy right now. I want this to thin out and speckle more. I'm just gonna tamp it a few times on my paper towel just to pull some of the moisture, and then I'm gonna come back to this. I really like using the white as a background for this because you can see exactly how the pattern's coming off. Get a little bit heavier with the, you can kind of see it's got that rusty tone to it. This is just a little bit bolder. I'm kind of focusing around these edges. Again, this is just like fun, organic painting. It's one of my more favorite, enjoyable things to do, is doing like undercoats like this to pre-weather and all that good stuff. I'm just gonna keep like rotating this around. I'm gonna pick up just a little bit more paint on my sponge. Pull this out of the way so you folks can see what I'm doing on this. Focus around the edges here. That's pretty good. Like, I'm gonna add like another mid-tone color to this. But this is looking really good. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of hit the undersides here. Oops, get that in focus. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same on this one. And then my next steps after this are gonna be to stipple with a bit of black or dark gray. Actually, well, I gotta add that other mid-tone color that I want to as I shake my camera around here. After I do the next mid-tone color, let's get this actually in frame. After I do the next mid-tone color for the third time here, I'm going to add a bit of dark gray, stipple that in certain areas, and start dry brushing with black and dark gray, just to hit a lot of those edges. And then, you know, it'll be like the edges kind of still have some of their paint, and then the raised areas will still kind of have some of their paint, but all the recesses will be kind of rusted out. Probably add a little bit of metallics. Might sponge some of the metallics on. Freehand stipple. Probably gonna freehand stipple a lot of the black and the dark gray as well, just because it'll be a lot more accurate. Keep kind of hitting all over the place here. That's pretty good. Nice ruddy brown. So I'm going to go ahead and grab So this is fur brown. I really don't use this color for much. Occasionally, I've done a couple skin things. I'll use this as an undertone for that, but honestly, it's really just good in earth tones. It's kind of a weird consistency coming out of the bottle. I also didn't shake it that well, but that's okay because we're gonna roll with this. Just gonna go ahead and grab a bit of moisture. I just want to mix these colors together. So it's just taking that bloodstone and brightening it up a little bit. I think I might add just a little bit of desert yellow to it as well. This desert yellow I'm going to shake up a reasonable amount. That was a little bit more than I intended, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and it's still very red at its kind of base value. I'm just going to go ahead and really get all that out. Okay. Go ahead and sponge it up. I'm just going to go ahead and take off some of the excess on that paper towel just to speed things up. But not too much because I don't want to pull all the moisture out. Try not to shake the camera too much, give you all nausea. Just a little bit of a lot of moisture in that desert yellow that I put into this mix. Alright, I think that's a bit better. Oops. Just going to kind of hit some of these bigger edges. I'm going to go ahead and change this song because I'll tell you right now, I'm not enjoying this one. Not one bit. Well, there we go. This seems like it's going to be way more chill. I'm going to go ahead and hit a bunch of these higher edges. I'm going to take my elbows off the desktop so I can stop shaking the camera a little bit. Just going to go ahead and put this everywhere. Especially down here. Alrighty. I'm going to try to do this and not completely ruin what I was going for. I'm going to go ahead and zoom this out for you folks. So I still have a bit of my black gray on this wet palette. I'm going to go ahead and use that because I'm not using it for anything else. I'm just going to go ahead and wipe off some of that excess. This hand towel is strictly for painting, so I'm not worried about any of this. Might want a little bit more. Just do it on my hand. If I had a glove on, this would be a lot easier to clean, but that's okay. This will actually wash off really easily with a little bit of dish soap. Okay, that's about where I want. Go ahead and kind of rub this all over. So see, this is darkening quite a bit, but it's keeping that really like deep, ruddy undertone to it. And then I'm going to go in with a bit of a slightly lighter gray right after this and just hit some of those edges as well. And that's going to like make it look like a little bit of, there's a little bit of shiny metal just on some of those raised edges that, you know, get rubbed on enough that they have a little bit of shine. Because you don't always necessarily need to have complete rust. You might have some shiny bits alongside it. But yeah. Toning down that red quite a bit. It's really nice. You can kind of see the color difference, like what it looked like before versus now. So if we can get that to autofocus. There we go. Alrighty. I'm gonna go ahead and add just a little bit more of this paint. I'm just gonna go ahead and give this a shake and squirt some more out. I'm just gonna put it right here. Don't need a huge amount, just a little drop. And I'm gonna go ahead and put that bottle back. Just gonna do this. Kind of work it in. Get off that initial excess on the paper towel. And then kind of back and forth on this. I'll do a little confirmatory on my skin, because I have rough skin on my hands. Comes in handy when I'm testing, so that's pretty good. Alrighty, and we're gonna go ahead and apply a little bit of pressure when we do this, just a wee bit. Kind of swiping down a little bit with this, because I want the undersides to stay rusty. It's real time, IRL, in real life. Generally the undersides of things tend to be rusty. Rustier rather, if they're going to be rusty. Not always. There are exceptions. But mostly. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Still looking pretty ruddy. Nice. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and grab just a little bit of this, it's like a graphite, or basalt gray. Go ahead and shake the shit out of this. And we'll throw a little bit of that in there. A little of that in there. Just gonna go ahead and just tap that on my wet palette sponge. Go ahead and suck a little bit of the excess out of that, and we'll go ahead and get the basalt gray into the dry brush, and I will stop shaking my camera. I swear I'll do it. I'll repeat it to myself like a mantra, and I will eventually figure it out. We might all die of old age in the process, but again, initial excess I'm just going to take off right here on the paper towel, and then I'm just going to go back and forth on my actual hand towel. This is a hand towel I have specifically reserved for painting. I'll go ahead and again test it on my hand. That's pretty good. And I'm just gonna hit like a few high edges, just to kind of, let's get that in focus, just to get like just a little bit more visual interest towards certain corners. Looking pretty decent. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the fuel car. If I can get this to focus, that'd be nice. There we go. Now, if you do this technique, and I highly recommend you do, you can at least tell people that you've done non-metallic metal successfully. Because this is non-metallic metal, essentially. Just rusty non-metallic metal. Let's get this to focus. How about? Weird. Why will this not focus? Zoom out, zoom back in a little bit. Pardon me, folks, I'm just troubleshooting a bizarre camera issue right here. Weird. It did not want to autofocus on this thing at all. But yeah, you can tell people that you've done non-metallic metal if you've done this. Look at that. Okay. So on this thing, we are also going to do some of the sponging, and that is going to give us the kind of that effect of, actually what we are going to do first is we're going to paint the bottom sections in a black gray, and we're going to do that, and then once we finish doing that, we're going to do the sponging. We're going to kind of unify the yellow up top with the gray down below, and then we will weather them accordingly. So I'm going to go ahead and clean my dry brush. Zoom this back out. Go ahead and clean this. This is what my dirty water looks like currently. I'm going to go ahead and rub that off a little bit, just to get some of that pigment out, and then I'm going to go to my clean water. Clean water, it's much cleaner, but it's still a little bit dirty. I'm going to go ahead and do the same. This one I will actually rub on the bottom, because this is, again, pretty clean, and I will go back and forth. Luckily this towel tends to pull almost all the moisture out. I'm just going to go ahead and let that chill, because I'm not going to need this for a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and use this chisel brush. I'm going to go and do black, and I'm just going to quickly kind of go around the edges. Just doing this really quickly, and this is what I like the black ink for, is it just completely turns everything it touches black. So you're not having to do too many passes, except for these weird spots like this. I don't know what happened there. That was just an area of glossy or something. Just the ink didn't want to adhere. I'm not zoomed in on this right now because this is an incredible detail work. However, this might be a little bit more interesting if I do it like this. Maybe, yes, no, who knows? That's okay, we're gonna rust the hell out of this, so if the line isn't perfect, that's totally fine. Plus this is gonna be for like tabletop terrain, so it doesn't need to be like super top tier. It's gonna get kind of beat up as time goes on anyways. And we're gonna be, again, mucking the hell out of this thing. So I'm not entirely worried about this being super clean when I block in these dark areas. Now I'm just doing the black right now quickly, just to make sure I kind of get all the areas I need. And then I'm going to go in with the gray right away here. Kind of get the bottoms. Do the same thing on the other side here. I'm just doing this quickly. Just kind of going underneath like this. Go ahead and clean that brush. Hydration check. Okay. Just waiting for that ink to dry. I'm just going to go ahead and grab. So this is a black gray, but this is the airbrush version. So this is obviously a lot thinner or perhaps not obviously. Airbrush paints are thinner out of the bottle than other paints, so this one is thinner. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on my wet palette, and I'm gonna use that to layer up over top of the black that I just blocked in. Pardon me. I'm also going to grab part of my head, just reaching forwards and grabbing another brush. This is a Abtiang number 2. This used to be my detail brush, but it just doesn't quite get the same super sharp point it used to. It's still good for like layering and blocking in though, so I'm gonna go ahead and use this and put the gray over top of this. I'm just waiting for those sides to dry. Suppose I could do the same on these. Pretty much going to be doing that on all of them, may as well. And then by the time I do this one and another one, perhaps the yellow guy is going to have a dry lower section that I can start to layer up onto. Gotta love chisel brushes. Especially on big blocky futuristic things like this or terrain, whatever. Kind of swipe all the way down this top edge, and then I can just kind of move quickly on this bottom area because I've already gotten in that accurate area that I had to get accurate. Swiping down after I get that top ledge painted up and flush, and then I'm going to kind of go on the underside of the lip like I did on the other one here. I'm going to do the same on both sides. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush. There we go, that one's good to go. Still not quite dry. So we're going to move on to this one, and we'll do this one. Just going to go ahead and add another drop or two of my black ink to my palette. 2 drops. Should be good for a little bit. Again, just kind of going along this top edge at that dividing line, trying to get this done first. So that's the area I really got to be kind of careful and accurate on, and then I can just kind of slop it up for the rest of it here and just kind of move quickly. And I'll just do that on every single side. And it is really nice having that little lip overhang from the top half, because it kind of helps just guide the brush and keep it where it's supposed to be. Do the same thing here. Whoops. Again, we're just going to kind of flood this. A little bit of wet paper towel did the trick after I flooded it. Flood it with water, and then wipe it up with either like a swab or a wet paper towel. And one that's kind of damp is honestly probably best. It's just going to help soak up the paint that's on there, as well as kind of wipe away any excess that's left over. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and again do the inside, just kind of reinforce that on both sides. Alrighty, go ahead and rinse this out. That one's good to go. I'm going to layer that one up with the gray as well. And this one's about good to go. Alrighty, let's go ahead and this is pretty thin, so I'm just going to kind of do it along the sides. Again, kind of being careful up at this top area here, but kind of this whole upper side face, I want to have this black gray. Probably have to do 2 passes, just because it is thin. I'm definitely gonna have to do another pass on that. Kind of cleaning up that center line there a little bit as I go, wherever I can. I'm just gonna kind of some very gentle kind of downward strokes here near these grill things, whatever these are, and then I'm going to do just a little bit of the black gray kind of along these bottom edges, just a little bit. I know this doesn't really make sense right now, but when I start adding up a little bit more gray with the next one, next layer, next color, it's going to be kind of like bounce lighting. Just kind of light reflecting off the ground and hitting that, and kind of making it not as dull and black as it would have otherwise been. Repeating the same process on this side, just kind of dragging the side of my brush along this panel just to kind of get as much in one swipe covered as possible. Gonna have to go over it again just because coverage. Just trying to blow a little bit of air on there to accelerate the drying in the middle. Stinger07, what's going on, man? Happy to see you here. Thanks for that follow. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some more of this black gray. A little bit too much on my brush there. Just wipe off the excess. Again, I'm going to do that kind of bottom edge down here, and I'm leaving some space around this little line that I'm doing, just to leave some black there. Less is more. Just helps to push that contrast up a little bit. And then I'm just going to kind of hit all these edges and raised areas on the back end, on the in-between areas, because these areas aren't going to be looked at a lot. And yeah, that's my reason. Hydration check. Okay. That's about good with the black gray. I'm going to go ahead and hit these with it, because I may as well. This one's probably, yeah, this one's dry. The other one with the green still had a couple wet spots on it, so I just wanted to let it be completely dry. That way I don't end up with any like weird streaking or texture just from dragging my brush through wet paint or paint that's not cured. That was actually really good coverage on that first white. These edges, and then we'll do that bottom one. Yeah, this was really good coverage on this first pass here. Again, kind of leaving some space between the black recesses and that little line. It's not very apparent right now, but it will become more apparent once I start adding on a little bit of more highlight color. Ahead and reinforce that top area. Should be good there. And I'm just going to quickly slop it up on the ends. Quickly do it on the other end too, just to say it's done. Boom. Again, just kind of pulling down. Not really being super accurate. I'm just kind of throwing the gray. The black gray down everywhere on that little area, and then we'll come back to this. And it's good coverage. Go ahead and hit all these colors, or all these areas rather, with the color. Those edges, and then the bottom one again, and then this one's done. And then we'll go to the green one, and then after that we can move on to the next color, which is going to be a much finer edge highlight. It's just going to be a slightly, it's probably just going to be that basalt gray again. Side still just slightly damp, but that's okay. There we go. Again, just doing these downward strokes on this grill. And the same painted edge near the bottom. We'll do those ends quickly, slop it up. Outlaw Mike, greetings. Looks like you're well underway today. Hell yeah, buddy. You're late to the party. Tardy to the party, as they say. No worries, though. You can go ahead and watch the replay of the stream later once I upload it to YouTube. it will be available as a VOD on my Twitch as well. So, but I'll have to go back to the Raider at the end of the stream just to show anybody who missed it. Looks pretty nice, if I don't say so myself. Okay. That's good to go already. Gonna go ahead and grab that basalt gray. Just gonna drop that down right here. Pull some of that moisture off my brush, just a little bit of excess. And just testing the consistency, that seems like it's pretty good. There's the one. Okay. I'm not trying to do like the entire one or the entire edge, just kind of going along, like stipple dragging almost, if that makes sense. Kind of hitting near the bottoms of these. Hit all these hard edges quickly on the ends. The off-timing beat of this song is really grinding my gears, so I'm going to change this one. This sounds a lot more cheerful. I'm going to go ahead and grab my detail brush, just because it gives me much finer lines. That's my number 2. Go ahead and rinse that out a little bit better, because I still have some of that soap and conditioner in there. Okay. I just want to go ahead and kind of hit the top edge. Do little dings and scratches, just kind of stipple random areas. Just like so. There we go. Just gonna kind of hit the top edges, a little bit of the side ones there, but don't really need to focus on these ends. I'm gonna go back to the other end here just so again I can say it's done. Make myself feel better, being like, hey, 3/4 of the step is done on this one. My phone going off, no idea who's trying to get a hold of me, but oops, let's get this back in the middle here. I'm gonna go ahead and try to hit the top edge here first. Just drawing on my brush, unfortunately. Basically dry brushing at that point with my sable brush. Oops. That's fine, that's just gonna end up being a big chip with rust. Just flipping this upside down so I can kind of get a bit of a better angle for coming along this edge. Trying to use the side of my brush to make life easy. Do the same for this bottom edge here. Going a little bit more bold on this side, that's okay. Gonna kind of hit near the bottoms of these little rungs on these grate things. These little down strokes. Just kind of stippling. Oop, I should probably get that back in focus. I'm just kind of stippling all over here. Just make little scratches. That's good enough. Don't need to do too much further on that. See if we can get this to focus. Good enough already. Go ahead and kind of do the same with these other two, just cause continuity's sake. We'll do this kind of quick and dirty. Slopping it up a little bit on this side, but that's okay. Weathering the hell out of these, we don't really need to be super accurate. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of go with a bit of a neater one down here. Here. Just gonna kind of hit these little down strokes. marks. Just quick and easy. Just little dings and scratches. We'll eventually kind of do the same thing up top, but I want to do some dry brushing up top first, which we will get to after. Hydration check. Alrighty. Go ahead and keep doing all these raised edges. Grabbed the wrong number 2. Try to be a little bit neater on this side. And we'll hit these edges just kind of from the other undersides here. Those bottom ones just a little bit rougher. Boom. Sorry, I'm moving this around quite a bit. Let's get that to focus. Again, wrong number 2. It's funny how that happens. Used to be my old faithful, that one. And, I mean, it still is, just in a different capacity. Oftentimes with metallics or just blocking in certain colors. Especially using black. Just gonna go ahead and ding this up a little bit. This one. Again, we'll see kind of how neat we can go. A lot of this is being able to paint lines that are not fatter than this, or at least kind of as skinny, is really just paint consistency. Takes practice, especially just kind of getting to know your paints. Just different paints just have different consistencies out of the bottle, so you always have to thin them a little bit differently than certain other ones. That's going to be really dinged up or something, because I got a lot of gray all over that panel, but oh well. My brush. Get a little bit more gray. I'm just going to go ahead and do these grates. stipple everywhere, whatever feels right. It's kind of, again, I really enjoy weathering for that aspect. It's just a very organic process. I'm just kind of doing what I feel like, and laying down little scrapes and scratches wherever I want. I don't have to think too much about it. I have a few certain parameters I kind of work within, like, you know, stick to edges that would probably see wear, and then try to do it as realistically as possible without going too overboard. Pretty loose parameters. There's a lot that can happen within those parameters. Anyways, almost done with this one. Just got to do this one side here and then good to go to move on. So I'm gonna get some more of this on my brush. Offload a little bit of that moisture. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can keep this line nice and thin. I have this nice little gap here that's kind of helping me. Whoops. Alright, that's a scratch now. That's the other thing I love about weathering, is if you kind of mess up on a miniature, you can just be like, oh, that's a ding. That was supposed to happen. I'll just paint that as a scratch now in my otherwise pristine paint job. Giggity. Hit along that whole bottom edge. Oops. Kind of get along this one. Pardon the angle. I think this is probably good enough. Good to go. Alrighty. Alright. We're gonna have to get some stippling going on this thing. I'm gonna go and grab a little bit of that bloodstone. Back out just a little bit here. I'm gonna go ahead and place this just kind of right here in the middle. I'm only doing that because I already have this really light stuff right here, and I want darker, pardon me, I want darker brown. I'm probably going to go in with a little bit of the chocolate brown as well at some point here. Actually, I might do that first. Build with that, and then I'll kind of focus on those areas with the bloodstone right after. And at least these colors will kind of mix together. Pop this back. Just like this. Just gonna pull off some of that excess. Go ahead and place that there so that doesn't get mucked about. Speckling to start. The recesses on this yellow are going to get mucked up too, because I'm going to do a little bit of enamel wash on this thing in particular. That's going to really help to sell the rusty, dirty, dingy look. But I got to lay these colors down first, or else it just kind of looks lazy. Also try not to knock this off of its post, because it's just held on there with a little bit of super glue. It's probably going to fall off. That's okay. I can always glue it back on. Yeah, it's coming off. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and set that right there. So literally all I have is these things just kind of glued on there to the end of this sprue piece. It just kind of sits in there. It was hot glued at one point, but the hot glue unbonded or debonded, whatever nomenclature you want to use. Okay, go ahead and add just a little bit of the kind of the ruddy brown. And this is kind of going on a little bit heavier with this. I'm really trying to look all over, especially if I can create like a nice little band that looks like it was, you know, something slid across and got, you know, scraped the hell out of it or something like that. Trying to hit the undersides here as well, just to add to the wholeness. And that's looking pretty good. Digging it. Not much else really needs to be done to this other than that enamel wash. At 6mm scale, that will look perfectly well, just like a rusty yellow flatbed train car. Alrighty, so you're gonna see me on camera, see if I can fix this thing back to its post. If it turns out to be a fussy thing to deal with, I'll just set it aside and deal with it later, but I wouldn't mind getting this back on there right now. I'm just gonna add a little bit of dab of crazy glue. I just use Gorilla Glue, super glue. Just has never failed me, so I don't question it. Then we're gonna do that. Just gonna kind of hold that on there for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's pretty good to go. Alrighty. And hydration check. Okay. So this bad boy, I'm gonna dry brush briefly dry brush. I'm going to do a bit of skeleton bone. Okay. That's I already have a little bit on my palette. I'm gonna see if I can get away with just using that, but I just wanted to show you that one. And so that is that paint right there on my palette. I've got this, it's nice and dry now. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do it on my hand here because that's a pretty good spot. It's already covered in paint anyways. I'm really gonna kind of put the pressure on this just to kind of get the excess out. Okay. Just kind of hitting these top edges. I'm gonna kind of go along the side here. I'm gonna gently brace with my finger on the back side. And there's like a little bit of would otherwise be chalkiness, but I'm going to turn that into scrapes and gentle physical wear and weathering. So when you get like the odd little bit of like, oh no, I have like a big like bit of a streak like that, that's actually, when you're talking weathering and prepping for that, that's free weathering. Like that's all free scratches and weathering. Especially once I start adding enamels and stippling with other things on this. I'm just going to go ahead and really hit those top areas. Boom. And there we go. That whole thing is like quasi edge highlighted and has its initial scratches. So I'm going to go ahead and set that down. This one I'm going to do in, I have a wolf gray. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna use this. It's like a blue gray, heavy blue gray, but a good mid-tone color. I really enjoy it. It's actually a really good base color or mid-tone base color. I'm making terms up at this point. Kind of like between the base layer and the mid-tone, if you are doing white, this is really, really good because in the shadows it gives you like really nice blue tones. Fantastic. I love using it. I'll go ahead and put that there. And I'm gonna be an absolute renegade, and I'm just gonna use the same dry brush. Just gonna go ahead and get that on there. There might be a tiny little bit of warmth that gets injected into this, but I don't think there will be. I think that blue tone will definitely overwhelm whatever is left. Let's see how this is coming off. Do it on my knuckle just because my knuckles are dry. That's pretty good already. I'm gonna start top down and then kind of go back, like front to back. Very little pressure here. I'm just kind of touching it. Let's get that centered. Do this other side now. Very small brush strokes. I'm trying to avoid hitting the gray stuff below. And I'm gonna keep it very light, but I'm gonna move back and forth quickly here. Whoops, just lost my grip. I start applying just a little bit of pressure. And then I'm going to kind of hit the sides now and go back and forth, front to back, kind of. Front to back is always relative, but you know. Kind of focusing my pressure on the top half, kind of along here. That way I don't really get it along the bottom. I almost feel like I could use a little bit more on here. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and grab just a little bit more of this and just see if I can get just a little bit more showing up on the edges. Quite a bit coming off on the brush there. Really work this off. Oh, that seems like it should be good. Just a bit coming off. It's probably pretty good. I don't really need too much more. And just have this guy. I'm gonna stipple this a little bit with the browns, and then I'll do a little bit of light dry brushing over top. But otherwise, I'm gonna start doing brown stipples rather on these three, and then we will go from there. I'm going to go ahead and clean this quickly, and I'll show you my process for that. I'm just going to kind of rubbing it on the inside and rotating. Camel Specs Online now following. I'm going to go ahead and reckon that is Ryan Peterson or B1B Flyer. Thanks for the follow. Just going to go ahead and rub all that out. Late to the stream, what up? The same, yeah. Just working on trains, man. I got through the Raider, finished all the heat glow on it, and I'm just moving on to these train cars, doing some basic weathering, just quick and dirty, super rusty, ruddy, metal. And then moving on to these bad boys. I'm gonna go ahead and start stippling a little bit of the chocolate brown. Do that first. Go ahead and twist this up and stick it inside my little makeshift holder again. Beauty. Go ahead and dab this out. I'm going to go a little bit heavier with the brown, especially on this green here. I will have to go in here and like block in some of these details, but that's totally fine. I'm just going to paint a lot of these in like grays and other things just to represent metallics or just flat colors, and then I'll weather those further. But I like doing this just kind of all over on the like the primary paneling. This is starting to peel off the lid of the paint pot. Actually, one thing I'll probably show you folks how I do my rusty metals is I usually, like for bits like this, the grills on top, these little vent things, I usually just paint them in brown and then I just kind of dry brush grays and metallics over top. When we get there, we'll get there, but yeah, it looks pretty good when all's said and done. Alright, we go ahead and move on to the next two. Just going to add a little bit more chocolate brown to my sponge. Test that on a white area. On a white area, there we go. Now this is going to look a little bit funky on the blue-gray. However, once I hit this with an enamel wash, it's going to kind of muddy all the waters, so to speak, when it comes to color tone. So a lot of all this blue is going to get like a kind of gross tint to it, which will help tie everything together. Right now, it might just look a little funny with all these chip marks with the brown and whatnot. Okay, and we go ahead and hit up this last one, and I'm going to leave the brown a little bit heavier on this because this is straight up black. Really going heavy on the ends and kind of around these corners. Oh, and I'll have to reattach this one to its post as well. So the unfortunate part about the sponging is sometimes it's a little bit of an aggressive method to get paint on there, so that's okay. I can just quickly reattach this after. I really focus on kind of the middle here and the lower portions. Grab the bloodstone now from Formula P3 and get some of that going. Probably won't need to add any other colors other than the bloodstone to all of these. It's It's one thing that I lean on heavily to speed up my painting process is weathering techniques like this, where I'm just, you know, haphazardly, in a way anyways, haphazardly applying paint in a very organic way. It makes it a more fun experience, more natural, and you don't really need to be as neat and accurate, so I find you just move through things really, really quickly. And then, you know, towards the end you can pick out a few details that you really focus on and really kind of beat the hell out of those details to draw a lot of attention towards those areas specifically. And you just kind of move on from there. There, it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and grab just a little bit more on the sponge and attack the next train car. Really love this ruddy brown. Makes things look super rusty. I'm gonna have to go ahead and fix this one too. There we go. And finally, we will do this one. Get this on camera. Try and hit all over the edge there. This one's not going to be as heavily weathered, so I don't need to go as crazy. I'm just going to kind of hit some of the more obvious corners and edges. Trying to be mindful not to smear too much of this off with my fingers. It is acrylics, it's drying pretty quickly, but you know. That's probably good. Go ahead and quickly fix this back to its post. A little dab of super glue and sorry, I'm an ape and I sometimes can't count in my head. I'm just holding this in position for like at least another 10 or 15 seconds. I don't have as much of a tight joint that this is gluing into. Try to be very gentle. There we go. Okay. I'm going to be very, very careful with this. Set it down so there's not a lot of shock. Okay, this one's good to go. This one's kind of good to go. We'll have to be careful with that one, but this one's ready to fall right off, so we're just going to go ahead and do that. Oops. And it should be pretty good. It'll dry. Alright, we can carry on. Hydration check. Nice. Alrighty. So this one I'm going to dry brush very quickly with a little bit of that graphite. Oh no, it fell off. I'm going to dry brush it quickly before I glue this back on. Where did I put that gray? Did I not put that gray back? What? Oh, there it is. I didn't put it back. Just add a little bit more. So that was starting to thin out quite a bit. So I'm going to do a little bit of black gray and then the other one on top. I'm going to use the dry brush. Weird, there's a French guy speaking in my music. Okay. Go ahead and gently hit this. I don't want to overpower the black with gray, because that'll kind of ruin the overall finish. This guy's still got a little bit too much moisture in the brush. Luckily this is a black gray, so this is like very, very subtle. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom this back in a little bit. You probably can't even really tell that it's been dry brushed. It's just adding a little bit of brightness in a few areas, but it's very, very subtle. Just want to hit these top edges more. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and hit that graphite. This is kind of going to be the final color I'm going to hit this train car with. Ooh, that was loud. Definitely changing that song. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna hit all these top edges. This is the basalt gray. Just trying to hit all these top areas. And that's about good. We don't really need to go any further than that. It still looks black. I can go on there. I can go in here and add some more clean, sharp edge highlights with the same basalt gray, just to kind of firm things up, but some decals and some oils and enamels and weathering powders, and this will look about as good as real. Alrighty, I'm gonna see if I can actually fix this to its post. I'm gonna hold this for a good 30 seconds. So for the next 25 seconds or so, hydrate, blow your nose, do whatever you gotta do, while I sit here and waste another 15 or so seconds of my life holding this thing in place so it hopefully doesn't fall off its little sprue post once again. Maybe third time's the charm. I doubt it though. Alright, well, it's in position for now. We'll leave it as is. No, we're gonna say forget to this thing. We're not gonna touch this thing tonight. There's just a few more details like windows and stuff that I want to do on this. I do have a really cool technique for doing like what almost looks like either window glare or like there's lights on the inside of the windows. I have it for the other train car that I did. I did it that way. And then I'll probably do like a reflective windscreen. But we'll spend a bit more time on this next time. There's just a few fiddly details that I want to spend some time on and not rush through. So we'll set this thing aside. These are all looking pretty good. All that initial damage and whatnot added on. Go ahead and zoom in just a little bit. I'll be adding the enamel wash after we block in some of those details and paint those. Add the enamel wash and kind of tie everything together. It'll all look mucky and grimy, but I'm really digging how this is coming out. Really digging how the rusty, super rusty, ruddy metal is coming out. Non-metallic metal, no metallics involved, just browns and grays. I figure next time I will probably also quickly varnish these at one point, and we can add some decals, warning signs, as well as like graffiti and all that good stuff. Yellow always looks so good with like rusty metal. Yeah, and again, once that enamel wash goes on this thing, fills all those recesses, this will look just like the real thing. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down, I think. Got about as far as we really need to tonight. Could fiddle with a few more details and block in some of these, but I might block in a few of these off camera on another time, or I might just save them for the next stream. Probably save them for the next stream. I might at least block them in black, that way I can just block them in their actual base coat colors. But yeah, show the different train cars again. Boom. Alrighty. I'll quickly grab the Raider, just so you folks can see that again. Alright. Got that Raider finished. Heat glow looking nice. Really happy we finished this tonight. I was kind of not really giving myself any options to not finish it. I'll be taking photos of this probably tomorrow, so it can go up on my social media at some point this week. Keep an eye out for those. I'm probably gonna take photos of it on an urban backdrop as well as like a desert backdrop. I'm also probably gonna do it on a black backdrop, just to get that really focus on the glow and a little bit of that object source lighting. But yeah, alrighty. I'm gonna pop over to the chat briefly, just for some final questions, and then we'll close out the stream for the night. Alrighty. Well, I hope you folks enjoyed tonight's stream. I know I certainly did. It's been a bit of a weird last couple weeks. Did Gen Con last weekend, and before and after Gen Con just had just a lot of family stuff going on. So it's nice to sit down for a few hours uninterrupted and get some painting done. So I quite enjoy it. Camel Specs Online, nice work. Glad I caught a bit of it. Yeah, I'm happy you managed to pop in for a little bit. Sorry you couldn't be around for any longer, but you know, life is life. 4 hours is a long time to stream anyway, so we're 3.5 hours in at this point. I'm definitely gonna call it a night. I might do a little putzing around my office, doing some attaching miniatures to bases and things like that before I call it a night. But you know, stuff that people probably don't want to watch, so we're gonna close out the stream. Thank you very much for spending your time with me. I know it was a small stream, not a huge audience tonight, but that is totally fine. I'm very happy that the few of you who stayed with me for the evening stayed. Hopefully I kept you entertained. And definitely stay tuned for the stream next week. We're going to see if we can finish up most of the details on these train cars. And probably work on that lead engine car with those other fiddly bits. Kind of work on the windows, show you some quick and dirty ways to do like kind of lit from inside windows on like a subway car. I have a couple good painted examples that I use in my urban diorama. We're going to do the exact same thing with this. Beyond that, I'm probably going to put up a couple posts on my social media in the next week or so just to see what people want to vote on for the next thing that they want to see painted. I have a assload of terrain. Also got a bunch of other miniatures that just need to get some paint on them. So if you know, we'll put the post up, see what you folks are interested in, and we will go from there. We are now at 10:30 Central. I'm going to bid you folks adieu. Hope you all have a fantastic evening. My name is Zach. You've been watching the Arclight Miniatures happy little painting session. Raiders of the Lost Art Part 3. Complete. We did it, folks. Take care, have a good evening, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will see you next time.